Hey, Strick, guess what?
What?
I'm using my my new superpower. You know how?
No, what is it?
It's mind-bending influence.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's good. So you will go to patreon.com/nice guys. You will contribute. How's it working so far? Has anybody moved over to Patreon yet?
I'm going there right now.
Oh, wait, you already contribute. We need our listeners to go to patreon.com/nice guys.
For as little as $1 or $2 a month, you can help support the podcast. Come on, guys. We're not asking a lot. Doug's superpower.
It's working.
Coming up today on the Nice Guys on Business.
If I was going to start a new business, I mean, depending on what it was, but I wouldn't start a new business unless I could go onto Twitter and I could find people complaining about the problem that I thought needed to be solved. Because that's what people do on Twitter. They complain. And if they're not complaining on Twitter, then maybe there's not a problem.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that the nice guys didn't exist. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, Nice Guy community. Welcome back. Today, have you seen Spamalot? Well, my name's Strickland Bonner. On the other side of the mic, Mr. Doug Sandler, Josh Neilson. You guys know him as Zencastr Josh.
He is a good guy.
Yes.
You know, for all the shit that I've given Josh over the last several months, you know, I've called him, I've emailed him, I've probably texted him just saying, hey, you know, I could really use maybe another sound effect in the box, or, you know, I think the hand should be.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
All right, Rayman, just calm down.
No, that's from 7. That's okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Come on. I just
Movie
watched.
reference.
I just watched Deadpool because of you, and now I'm binge watching Daredevil, not because of you, but because I needed my superhero fix, and I have no other way around it because Deadpool 2 hasn't come out yet.
I know. We talked about this yesterday.
Yeah. I get a little OCD about all this stuff. So
yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah. So Josh is on the show today, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all. What movie reference did you make? Why do I have to watch 7 now?
What's in the box?
I haven't seen 7. I have no idea. Oh, no.
7 is creepy. It's really good.
No,
we're not going to talk about that today, though. But that's what that line is from. What's in the box? Oh, and if you've watched the movie, for the Funkin' fans, anybody who's watched that movie, when you hear somebody say "What's in the box," you get a little tinge, and you'll never hear that phrase the same way again, ever. It's just. Oh my God. Anyway, let's move on from that.
Is this the kind of movie that I don't want to watch if I'm home alone?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It's not a horror movie, okay?
Yeah, okay.
But it's creepy, scary, like mystery.
No.
Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. It's really good.
Is it like
it's
things
really
jump out at you kind of, 7?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I don't want that.
It's really...
I don't like psychological movies. They'll fuck with my brain for a really long time. I don't like that.
It's a serial killer movie. All right. I mean, that's really the best way to describe it. But it's one of these like serial killers, really intelligent, but really twisted kind of thing. And it's creepy. It's really good, though. It's really good.
Not gonna do it. So instead, I'm going to listen to the interview with Josh Neilson.
So Josh, Zencastr Josh, you know, we give him shit a lot on the show. I mean, you guys hear it a lot. And, you know, Doug and I are definitely very different. Zencastr has issues. All software has issues, right? But the thing is, the way I look at software is, okay, how can you, when something bad happens, is it easy to correct? And this is what I love about Zencastr, because it's filling this hole of how do I get good, clean recordings, even if I'm on an internet connection, and maybe my guest or the person on the other end has a bad internet connection, and I just can't do anything about it. Well, Zencastr solves that problem. And even with the little quirks, it's so easy to fix. And, you know, Doug, you talk about, hey, customer service isn't about what goes wrong. It's about how you react to it. And exactly. Josh is just all over all this stuff. I mean,
he gets it. He understands the value of the user experience. He definitely understands the value of great customer service, and that he is right on top of. And I wanted to get him on the show because I wanted to talk to him about, it's not like he's got a company of 50 people or 100 people. It's a very, very small organization. He works a lot with partnerships and organizations that can help him do his job more efficiently and effectively as like a solopreneur, an entrepreneur. And so when I reached out to him, it was like he was support, he was sales, he was the guy that sends me the email with my invoicing. You know, he was all of that. And I really wanted to find out how a company can be successful without being huge, because I think there's some out there in the Nice Guy community that really want to create a business that you're not looking for scalable necessarily. You're not looking, and I'm not saying Josh isn't, but I think he offers some great advice on if you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur that has a small organization, what you can do in order to really maximize what your strengths are. And so a great interview for that. He came through in a clutch here, because I think it was, I put him on the spot a couple of times, as I do many of our guests, but
right.
You know, since we're using his products and services, I wanted to really just put him to that, not to the test. I just wanted to understand how he eats, breathes, sleeps as an entrepreneur, and he does a good job of answering all those questions.
And you all listeners here, regular listeners, hear us kind of bitch about Zencastr sometimes. I mean, I don't think it's really bitching. It's more like gentle prodding. But I want to point something out, is that we continue to use it. And there's a reason. It's not like, oh, Zencastr sucks and there's nothing else out there. There are plenty of other products out there. We've made the choice not to change because it really is great. So when we poke fun, we're kind of poking gentle fun because we really freaking love it, actually.
Yeah, we do. And there is no other option for us in terms of the high quality level. This is just high quality, great stuff, great product, great service. Josh does a great job of answering all the support and user experience questions that we have. And again, I just think he's a valuable part of our community. Without him, you're not getting the... I was talking to Michael Steinhardt, who was interviewed just, I think, last week, and he was telling me that he was never a listener to podcasts. And when he heard our podcast, he thought, hey, this sounds like this is a really good, like a good quality, almost like a radio show type of quality. And he shared our show with a friend of his who listened, and she said, these guys, the quality of the call, I mean, like the quality of the connection, it's like studio. And because she listens to a whole bunch of others, and they're like, no, that's really shitty quality. You know, it's almost like most people do their podcast. It sounds like you're listening to a phone.
Oh, it gets so frustrating when you hear a guest and the guest is obviously calling in on the phone, and you're like, it's distracting.
Yeah,
you know?
It can be distracting. So Zencastr does away with a lot of that as best as they can in the different parameters that we set up with the guests. Sometimes we have the variable of a guest is sometimes challenging. So let's get to the interview. But before we do that, we just want to remind you, if you're listening on Overcast, please take a moment, recommend the show. Just hit the little gold star on Overcast. 80% of you we know are listening on Overcast. Please help us. You can go back as many episodes as you want. Just hit the little star and support our show, not just through Patreon like we did in the pre-game commercial, but actually you can do that by helping us get to the rankings. The more people recommend us on Overcast, the more people will find out about the show, because we stay on their homepage. So when they're coming right to the homepage, they can see us, and we can expand our message out there even further. So thank you for helping out with that. Proud to be affiliated with the C-Suite Radio Network. That is us. The C-Suite Radio Network is our affiliation, and that is where we want to stay. Please help us stay there by recommending us on Overcast. They're going to kick us out pretty soon, because they're going to say...
Doug, but you like run it. How could they kick us out?
They're gonna. I think Jeffrey's probably either going to fire me at some point for, if we're going to...
Is this like a board of directors thing where they get together and they vote out the CEO?
Yeah. See, you have to be... And I'm going to be one of the voting people voting us out. Hey, listen, if we can't pull our weight, I have to resign. It just makes sense. Oh, you can't be a C-Suite Radio Network show and have a shitty show. Or if you have a shitty show, it's got to be a popular show. So
everything is relative. Shitty is a very relative term.
Okay, so
I think our show's great. It's just different.
It's different. It's special.
When put into a room with all of the rest of the C-Suite Radio podcasts, it is definitely different.
Different.
But if you put us in a room with like Savage Lovecast and Guys We Fucked, we're not different. We're actually kind of conservative.
Yeah, that's true. What was that other one that you said? Savage what?
Dan Savage has a thing called Savage Lovecast that I actually started listening to from listening to the Guys We Fucked podcast, because they listen to Dan Savage's. It's a great podcast. Okay. Dan Savage is a guy who has had a newspaper column for years and years. It's been in City Paper for like 10 or 20 years. And so now he has a podcast, and basically he answers sex questions.
Oh God, we have to have a sex questions column on our show.
No, we don't. That's not our. It's not our audience. I don't think. I really don't feel that's our audience.
It's not our foreplay. I mean, our
no,
forte.
You should totally listen to Dan Savage and the Savage Lovecast. It's really interesting. I really like the show a lot.
I was expecting the hi hat on that one. I guess I didn't earn it.
Oh, God, you see, sorry, I missed it.
You gotta always
didn't have it up.
It's too late now.
I know. I got to have it up all the time. It was terrible.
You have to have your finger on the. Is there like here's another thing for Zencastr. If you could just push the one would be the.
Well, no. Oh, yeah, like a shortcut.
Like shortcuts.
That's a good idea.
Shortcut.
I know, but I've got it right here in front of me. I just wasn't. I was sleeping at the wheel.
Yeah. So again, we should really have it should be instead of foreplay, it should be our forte.
Yeah, there you go.
Too delayed.
Okay, sorry. I didn't realize you were going there again. I'm just not.
I gave you enough time. I delayed.
I need another cup of coffee. No, I had my finger on it. I just wasn't thinking. I need another cup of coffee. I'm going to go get another cup of coffee and we'll record our Thursday show from yesterday.
Let's get to the interview with Josh Neilson from Zencastr. Again, the Nice Guys on Business, proud to be affiliated with the C-Suite Radio Network. Let's do our interview. Here comes Josh. He is the founder of Zencastr and here to take us on a journey many entrepreneurs try and fail to go on, or maybe they go on it but don't necessarily come out on the proper side. Bringing a successful product to the market, ups and downs and all in between, Josh Neilson gets it and wants to help share the never quit mentality with the Nice Guy community today. Welcome to the Nice Guys on Business, Josh.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you here. And what's so great about it is that, we've been talking Zencastr. Sometimes we yell at you, under our breath, and sometimes we applaud you, again, under our breath and over our breath and everything in between. So, that's got to be part of the frustrating side of things, is having something that is so public like a product like Zencastr. Let's spend a moment talking about Zencastr, and then we can share some of the experiences that we all have in general.
Well, let me give a brief description of what it is. If you haven't heard of Zencastr before, it helps you record your podcasts, your remote podcasts in high quality. So instead of recording your podcast conversation over Skype, which comes with artifacts and can drop out depending on the network connection, Zencastr lets you just send a link. It records everybody locally on their own computer in high quality and then streams it to your Dropbox account. So you don't have to worry about all that.
I can never explain it quite as eloquently as that, but then again, you live it every day, right?
Yeah, I get asked that question every once in a while.
I bet.
But yeah, so that's what it is. But as far as how I kind of got started with it, is that where you want me to get with this?
Yeah, let's talk about that. How did you, so I guess one of the things that many entrepreneurs, we all have that little bug in our system that says, there's got to be a better way to build this mousetrap. There's got to be something that's better that's out there. So when was it that you discovered that the entrepreneur bug bit you? Was it before Zencastr, or was this your first attempt?
No, yeah, this was not my first attempt, but I kind of see the whole thing as one continuous attempt. You know what I mean?
Like, right. Yeah, totally.
So I actually got the first inklings of the entrepreneurial bug when I got my first job. I got a job at a startup company based out of LA. It was called Mahalo.com. And the founder of that company incidentally was building a podcast network on the side while I was there, and I didn't really know that was going to be part of my future at the time. But he was a serial entrepreneur and is still is now a angel investor, and his name is Jason Calacanis. Some people may know of him. And anyway, I was just working as a developer at this company, but I was seeing all these, he was hosting startup events and building other companies, and his podcast show, it's called This Week in Startups. He was having entrepreneurs come in every week and, be on the show, and they'd eat lunch with us. And so I was just kind of being exposed to it. And it kind of, I think every developer has this moment where they're like, man, I've been building all this stuff for other people. I wonder if I could do it myself. How hard can it be? Which it is actually quite hard.
as we all discover in one way, shape, or form, one failure or another, or one lost credit card, a huge debt, or anyway.
Yeah. So, you kind of, it's easy to delude yourself into thinking that if you can build the technology behind a business, that you can build a business. But I think you kind of need that delusion to get yourself to jump in, or else you probably wouldn't. And so I stayed there for, I don't know, almost 2 years or something like that. And yeah, it was obvious the business wasn't going well, and I was kind of looking for something new. But I didn't just want to go get a job at another company. I wanted to try and, I'd caught the bug, I guess. And so I wanted to see if I could start making, some progress towards doing my own thing. And I had been hearing about this tech accelerator called Techstars, which I'm sure most people have heard of. And there was a few things. I was sick of LA. I was sick of being, traffic in the city, and I didn't want to be in that kind of an environment. And I'd heard that, there's this place called Boulder, Colorado. There's an incubator there. There's tons of tech startups. You can get jobs as a developer there. So I was like, okay. And so I packed up my stuff and I moved to Boulder.
Hey, and Josh, I hear they have marijuana there too.
Yeah, well, they did. Well, I mean, they always have had there. It wasn't legal there at the time. However, I did participate. I did vote in favor of that while I was there. So
okay.
I get a small piece of the credit there.
All right, good. Thank you, Josh.
So I went there hoping to try and get some sort of a prototype together and apply to Techstars and get in. But I was like, I'll just move there anyway. I'll figure something out. I didn't get in because I really didn't have a business. I had a few prototypes of some ideas, basically is what it was. And, I've since learned that the bar is a lot higher than that. But, but they did hire me as, they call it a hack star, which is kind of a stupid name, but it's basically a developer in residence for their companies. So they take a cohort during the summer, and then basically it was my job with a few other people to help the companies get ready for their demo day and make sure their stuff
It's almost
was
like
built.
I see that as a better opportunity, because you're in the mix with so many companies. It's not just one, you're working with many.
Well, and that was the cool thing, is I got to work with several companies, and I also it was kind of like being able to audit Techstars. So in the sense of like auditing a class in college, like I got to sit in on all of the talks. I could get FaceTime with any of the people that were coming through, who were, all the mentors and things. So I was able to kind of get that experience without actually doing it for real, you know what I mean? So I kind of look at Mahalo as like my startup high school, and then that summer at Techstars was like my startup university. And then at that point I wanted to try and do my own thing, but I still wasn't I still had a lot of hurdles to jump. So the initial thing that I started was with one of the guys that I was in the Techstars class with. And we tried to start, and another guy that was from Mahalo. All these guys were from Mahalo, actually. It was called soundkeep.com, and we were trying to make a kind of like a GitHub for music, for electronic musicians, to make it easy for musicians to collaborate and share and work together online. And it ended up being... there's some other companies that have now made something like that kind of work. So I guess the idea wasn't flawed, but
No, totally not flawed. So how did Zencastr come to be, though? How did that evolve from what it seems like was something that wasn't exactly in the right space yet?
Yeah, long story short, that first company didn't work out for a lot of reasons. Basically, we did more wrong than we did right, I guess. And but I had been learning a lot about doing audio stuff in the browser and how to, and I was just watching that space pretty closely. And at the same time, the browsers started releasing things like the Web Audio API, which lets you manipulate audio, the WebRTC API, which lets you access the microphone and things like that. And so basically I had been learning about all these pieces that could later come together as Zencastr. I didn't really know about this at the time. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I kind of was searching for a way to repurpose that knowledge into something in the future. And just as this was all happening, one time somebody said to me, I don't know about this electronic music thing, but I know podcasters have problems getting their audio back and forth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's totally the battle for all of us. It's between Zoom and Skype and all the other audio programs. It always is. It sounds good on my side and they sound good on their side, but we can't get the two to seem to connect up in the middle. So how did you discover, as talk to our entrepreneurs for a moment, and outside of the Zencastr space necessarily, how did you discover that there was actually a need for what you have?
I'm not going to claim that I really did this right or that I recommend doing it this way.
None of us do. It's okay.
As with most stories, there's just a lot of luck kind of involved in this as well. But when that person told me that, I just put that in the back of my head and I didn't act on it for probably a year. It wasn't until I found out that I was having a baby that I was like, okay, I need to get more serious about, because in between this, I was thinking about building like an audio workstation in the browser and stuff like that. But once I felt a little bit more urgency to get a faster path to revenue. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, maybe I can look back on that podcasting idea. And I still didn't really know what he meant, but I knew some podcasters. And so I got all my friends on the phone who were podcasters and I said, hey, is this a real problem? Explain this to me. How does this work? And as they're explaining to me the problem, I was like, oh, I could totally solve this with these tools that I've got. The stuff I've learned and these new tools are being available in the browser. And so I was like, would you pay for it? And honestly, like I only talked to maybe 5 people and one of them said, yeah, I'd pay $20 a month for it if you built it. And
everybody's got a monthly fee. They know what they can afford on a monthly fee. And you're like, well, I can't pay baby formula for $20 a month. So I got to figure out how to scale this thing pretty big.
Right. But I was like, okay, that's something like that. That was more than, that was a much more clear answer than I'd been getting in the past with our previous venture. And so I was like, well, I think it'll only take me, maybe a couple months to build a prototype of it. Let me just see if I can get something working. And, little did I know this was going to be a much longer process than I thought. But, that's still the pricing today, $20 a month. I just stuck with that. It sounded good to me at the time. It still sounds good to me. And it seems to sound good to other people. So
So step away from Zencastr for a moment and be that entrepreneur self that you have, and you've been through that journey, and you've seen other people's startups, and then you've created your own. What do you see as the toughest part about being an entrepreneur in general? Is it money, or is it something else?
For me, I think one of the toughest parts is getting disciplined about what you're doing. It's always been half kind of a game to me. Like, I like building things. I like prototyping things. Oh, I thought I could build it quickly, and so I'm really good at doing the fun, easy parts, but getting disciplined about digging in and doing the hard parts is, I think, what makes the difference between, making an attempt and making a success.
And in your world, some of the more technical stuff might be some of the easier stuff because you're more of a technical guy. I mean, right? You're a developer. So I'm assuming the things that don't come easily to you, maybe I'm wrong, and shoot me down if I am, are things like marketing, sales, operations, accounting. Are those the challenging things, or is development the tough stuff for you? No,
you're exactly right. Like, I enjoy it. Granted, there's the technical challenges in building something like Zencastr have been very big. There was nothing like it that existed before, so I was treading a lot of new territory. But I enjoyed that part, so it wasn't hard to keep at it. It was hard to figure it out, but it wasn't hard to keep at it. But yeah, I even to this day, have zero to no marketing. Like, I go on podcasts when people invite me, but I don't really do any of that, and I need to get better at that. I think the business would actually be a lot more profitable right now if I had been.
What's so funny is that you take a guy like you and a guy like me. I have absolutely no technical expertise, but you connect a guy like you and a guy like me, and I love selling, and I love the marketing side, and I love the social media outreach and all of that, and you love the development side. It's almost like we had this guy, Thor Roundy. He was on our our show maybe a couple months ago as of the time of this airing. And he had not an incubator, but it was almost like a facilitator. It was an area where all of these things came together. It was almost like I can't remember the term that he called it, and he's going to kill me because he said it like 1,000 times. But he came on the show and he's like, hey, all of these things, they collide right here. We have legal, we have accounting, we have development, we have operations, and it all comes together. It's just amazing to me that like entrepreneurs don't have a resource to go to that's the connection hub. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's such a tough thing to. Actually, Doug, you're probably gonna want to edit this out. I forgot I left my window open, and there's kids outside.
No way. I don't want to edit this out.
Let me. All right, I just shut the window. All right.
Okay. Here you go. It's just called exposition. We just tell the audience what you just did. There you go. Strick is going to say, "Fuck it, I'm not editing that out."
Hey, leave it in. We'll do it live.
Yeah, that's right. There you go.
I totally lost my. What were we just talking about?
No, that's all right. So that's okay. So I'm talking about the hub. Like there's areas where an entrepreneur like you goes to meet an entrepreneur like me, and it all comes together. It's like it seems like you need the sales and marketing side, and other people need the development side that they are clueless about.
Yeah, definitely. I fully. Rather, what I should say, there's different ways to accomplish that. And when I started this company, one of my main goals was. I wanted to the identity behind this company for me was that it was to bring independence. And I've used that to educate a lot of my decisions about should I raise money or should I bring on, partners or things like that. And then not to get too much into this, but I noticed in the first, in the first company that I talked about, there was 3 co-founders in that situation, and we've always been good friends. You can't
make a decision for shit because there's 3 people that all have to have a say in the matter.
Right. We're good friends, and we still are to this day. But we ran into a lot of problems when it came time to pivot or make a big changing decision, and we all had different points of view. And what ended up happening is that we compromised with each other to where we weren't really ever doing any one thing wholeheartedly. We were kind of always meeting in the middle, and I felt like, at least for me, that didn't work very well. And so, I wanted to be with Zencastr. I wanted to be financially independent. I wanted to be geographically independent, and I also wanted to be decision making independent, or be able to say this is what we're doing and we're doing it, without having to do compromises.
So when you say stuff like that, what that means to me is no partners. It's all top down management. Not that that's bad, but it's you make the decisions, or you just keep it as you keep the business really lean, meaning one person's running it and you're doing all the code and the writing, and you just have people that come in to kind of be on your team, but you're running it on your own, and I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, I've led a 30-year career that way. I think it's very challenging for me when I want to make a decision and there's a boss that you got to run things by because they don't like the way you part your hair or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's very important in business to be able to make quick decisions and not have to deliberate. Get that mechanism in your business moving fast so that you can focus on actually building and working and not trying to decide. And so, and that has its downsides too. Obviously, sometimes I end up off in the weeds by myself without anyone to tell me, but that's the risk that's the risk you take when you head in that direction. But, now that I've got revenue coming in and I can start to hire people, I'm bringing on people who are, helping me with this stuff now. But what I've found is that it's quite hard to hire someone to do something that you don't understand. And so it doesn't save you from having to learn it, but it does help you from not having to spend all your time on it.
So what advice, and I think I see where it's heading, but what advice would you give to somebody that is just about to venture out on their own before they start making some big decisions about building a business? And any critical mistakes that you see or advice that you can provide?
I spent an awful lot of time not charging when I probably could have. I ran the service for free for about 2 years. I probably could have accelerated things quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. There was a lot of stuff. So that's one thing is I would say try and find as quick a path to revenue as you can, because things get an awful lot easier when you've got at least some money coming in that you can start, paying for things, except not out of your own pocket.
It sounds like through practice and experience, you'd much rather be bootstrapped than venture capped. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. It's not that I'm against the idea of raising venture capital. I just think don't do it just because that's the way that it's done. I think you need to have a real good reason to do it. And because my overarching kind of principle from the beginning is this company was to bring independence, unless I had a real great reason why I needed to bring in money and partners and a board, it kind of ran against that principle. So I've avoided that thus far.
No, and you're doing great. I love the company. Again, sometimes we have a love-hate relationship with everything that we have. You grow so dependent upon something that when you don't have it, as quickly accessible as you like, or it's not exactly fitting the bill for you, you start to curse it, and that's probably not the approach to take. But that's oftentimes what we do in public. I want to move to a part of our show called Tools, Tips, and Tricks. I want to share with the Nice Guy community a tool, something technology-wise that you can't see yourself living without, a tip, maybe an action item that they can put into place, and then maybe like a hack, something that you do on a regular basis that helps trick yourself into success. So can you share with us a tool that you use on a regular basis that life wouldn't be the same without?
What tool do I use that life wouldn't? There's lots of them. I'm trying to think of what would be the. I'll just pull one out of a hat. One tool that I use that this probably only applies if you're using, a subscription-based service. But I have a analytics service that I use that's called Baremetrics, BARE metrics, and you just plug it into your Stripe. You connect it with your Stripe app, and it just gives you tons and tons of great analytics of like what your MRR, monthly recurring revenue is, what your net is, what's your run rate. It gives you forecasts for the future based on churn and all this stuff. And, obviously you could build that if you wanted to, but it just saves me a ton of time, and it's really kind of nice to just have everything in one view. So I'm like almost obsessive about using this app every day.
Yeah, that sounds great. How about a tool? Is there a tip? Is there something, an action item that you put into place pretty frequently that you find helps you with success?
One tip that I probably have for like other people that are bootstrapping or getting started, or even if you're not, just getting your first users that I for some reason I don't hear a lot of other people talk about is I got my first several hundred users just by using Twitter. And what I did is I got on Twitter, I searched for people complaining about Skype. And so I would.
Can you do that? You just Skype complaint, Skype fail, or something like that.
I'll leave the expletives out of it, but I would put searches into Twitter like, Skype podcast sucks, or just these keywords that I would think would show up if someone was angry at Skype for their messing up their podcast recording. And there was maybe 15 or 20 of these in a day that would pop up, and I would just go in and I'd send a personal tweet to each one of these people and try and make a joke or whatever, and just say, hey, I fixed this, come check it out. And I had a really high success rate of getting people to at least come sign up just through doing that. And that got me through maybe my first 200 or 300 users. And then from there, it just kind of grew organically.
I think what's interesting about what you're saying is that oftentimes, even if it's not 200 or 300, because maybe that's even unrealistic for some people that have a higher dollar volume product, it's just a matter of getting, even if it's at a huge discount, a couple of clients to prove that what you're doing is right. It's almost like personal level of acceptability. Somebody saying, hey, you know what? This is actually a service that we could use. And sometimes just a couple of wins is all you need in the bag in order for you to feel confident about what you're developing.
Well, and even before that, if I was to go back in time, I would use that in the validation stage. If I was going to start a new business, I mean, depending on what it was, but I wouldn't start a new business unless I could go onto Twitter and I could find people complaining about the problem that I thought needed to be solved. Because that's what people do on Twitter. They complain. And if they're not complaining on Twitter, then maybe there's not a problem.
Oh, that's interesting. So look for the problem and then try to solve it. Oh, I like that. Sounds pretty typical of product development, or from an engineering's perspective, or a developer's perspective.
Right. Yeah.
And how about any life hacks? Any hacks that you put into play on a regular basis?
I think when you're building your business, you need to be aware of what kind of person that you are, and so you need to kind of cater as much to your own personality and schedule as you can, but also you're not always going to be able to do that. So you also have to find ways to kind of hack your own mind into doing the things that you don't want to do. And one of the problems I've had throughout the whole process is shipping, like actually getting it done. It's really easy for me to just tinker away. And I found in this company and in other experiences that one of the best motivators is the threat of public humiliation. And so a lot of times when I know I want to get a feature or a product out, I'll do something like a couple of years ago when I was trying to launch some stuff with Zencastr, I bought a booth at a conference where I was going to show all this stuff off. And obviously you can't do that unless you have it. And so that's what'll get me to work, 50 hours at a stretch getting ready to get this thing out. It forces you have a deadline that's immovable. No matter what you do, you're going to either have it done or you're going to be publicly humiliated. And that works well for me.
So Josh, what would be, again, I'm trying to work out several different things in my head here. What would be another use for Zencastr in addition to podcasters? Who typically, I know probably podcasters make up the majority of your users, or am I wrong?
Oh yeah, no, it definitely is majority podcasters, although there are other types of users. It's kind of in the similar vein, but there's like video gamers who publish videos of them playing games like with their friends and stuff, and they'll use it to record the audio that they then mix along with the video. People that do webinars and things. I think you were telling me, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the other day that you were actually inviting audience members to your shows as guests that you just mute. So that's kind of an out of the ordinary use case for it. There's also a lot of people who don't use Zencastr to record remote interviews. They're just recording themselves. And so they actually really have no reason to use it over something like Audacity, except for that it's just easier to use. Oh my gosh, it's so easy. From that perspective, I would never have any issue with Zencastr if it was just me recording. I think our biggest concern, and again, this is something that I'm not speaking out of school here, it's just educating the person on the other side that's never used Zencastr before. It's extremely easy interface, but even then, it's still challenging. Some people, if success were like water and you threw it on some people, they still wouldn't get wet. It's just like you can only bring it down to a certain level before you just say, I'll just meet you over on Skype again. It's not, this is something we're trying to figure out how to address better every day, but figuring out how to make it super easy for people to know how to make sure they've got the right microphone selected and all this and that. It's funny because we have a remote team because, again, geographic independence was one of the goals of the company, and we have to do a lot of VoIP calls and meetings, and even among our own team, we are frequently in that situation where it's like, hey, and this is not even, a lot of times we're not even using Zencastr, we'll be using Slack or something else. We'll be like, I can't hear you. Are you there? Is your mic plugged in? Maybe it's on my end. Let me check. And there just doesn't. I love to know that it's happened. I love to know it's not just happening to us. It happens to you too. Yeah. So we're aware of the problem. It's a hard problem to solve, though. Hey man, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you to get more information on Zencastr, or to sign up for Zencastr, or to take a trial, what do they need to do? Zencastr.com or on Skype at Zencastr. You can also hit me up at Josh on the web on Twitter, at Zencastr on Twitter and at Josh on the web on Twitter.
All right, excellent, Josh. Thanks for being a part of the show today. Any wise words of advice for those entrepreneurs as we're heading out the door here?
Make something that is empowering and delightful. That's what I try and do.
Oh, I love it. That's great advice. Empowering and delightful. Nice Guy community. Never underestimate the power of nice. Special thanks to Josh for being on the show today. All this information about contacting him and getting a hold of any of the services that he offers through Zencastr will be available in the show notes. Again, Josh, thanks for being a part of the show today.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
You've put enough in little Johnny's 529. Now, it's time to really help out someone in need. The nice guys on business need your support. Please go to patreon.com, and for as little as $2 a month, you can help these guys continue to ramble on and on and on, week after week after week. Thank you for your support. And boy, is it weak.